are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for all right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Once again, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have everybody here once again here on this Friday, January 12th. We have a lot to talk about on this show for today, but before I get into that, I just want to remind you guys, again, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, with that being said, let's get right into what we are going to talk about for today. So, starting off the show, we're going to talk about the Patriots again. They actually hired their next head coach, and that'll be Jerod Mayo. So we'll get into that in a second to hold off on the playoff talk for a little bit longer. And then from the second part of the show on, we're going to preview the games for this weekend. And then in the final part of the show, I'll go through how I think the playoffs are going to shape out and give you my Super Bowl prediction, which I think is not very bold, but it's just because of how the season has gone, and but again, anything can happen. So we'll get into that. But first, I wanted to get into the Patriots and them making their head coaching change. So Bill Belichick had his press conference yesterday, his farewell press conference. Him and Robert Kraft both there, obviously. And Belichick gave his closing remarks on a great career with the Patriots. Obviously, it's one of those situations where it's more of a see you later, because he's going to retire as a Patriot. He's going to come back and they'll do something for him. But this is a guy that's going to continue to coach, and we'll see where he ends up. Because there are some jobs out there that some positions out there that need to be filled. So we'll see where he ends up. And he was emotional, and you don't really see that, a lot, in Bill Belichick press conferences. But obviously it's a tough thing, because obviously it's been the head coach since 2000. It's been a long time. And it's one of those things where it was better for both parties to go in different directions. How the season went, and obviously Tom Brady, he posted something on social media, basically thanking him for all the things that he did for him during his playing time in New England. I know there was a lot of speculation on what went on behind closed doors and how their relationship was, but ultimately, when you won the amount of championships that they won together and the amount of big games, that they won, leading up to those games, you're obviously going to have, some rough patches. It's not going to be perfect, but obviously they both were very successful together, and I know for a lot of fans, they're happy that this is finally over, particularly Jet fans, because you've had to, deal with them, for a long time. And, now the Patriots are kind of, in a weird spot now where, they had to look for a new head coach. And Jerod Mayo was one of the top candidates for it. There was also now with Mike Vrabel being available that maybe he'd be the replacement. But the Patriots went ahead. They wasted no time, and they ended up hiring Jerod Mayo, who obviously was a part of the coaching staff. Was a player for the Patriots at one point as well. Somebody that was regarded highly in the organization. So, they went ahead and they promoted him as the head coach. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. It's going to be really different now next year. He's got some big shoes to fill. He's now the 15th head coach in franchise history for the Patriots. He actually will be the youngest head coach in the NFL, taking over the title from Sean McVay, who obviously became a head coach back in 2017 for the Rams. Mayo is a month younger than McVay. He was a Patriots linebacker from 2008 to 2015. He was drafted in the first round out of Tennessee. He joined Belichick's coaching staff in 2019, and he served as the linebackers coach. So we'll see what ends up happening there. If this ends up being the right move. It says here in the ESPN article that I'm looking at, Dietrich Wise Jr. credited Mayo as a primary reason he felt the defense experienced success against the Bills quarterback Josh Allen in the Week 17 loss. Mayo was named team captain in his second season, with some players referring to him as Bill Jr. because they viewed him as the future coach who spent countless hours at the team facility like Belichick himself. So, spent his entire playing career with the Patriots, appearing in 103 games, totaling 905 tackles. He led the team in tackles each of his first 5 seasons and became just the second Patriots player to win the Associated Press Defensive Rookie of the Year award. He was part of the Super Bowl championship team in 2014, although that season he was limited to 6 games because of a leg injury. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see, now that he is, the head guy there in New England now, what ends up happening. Because, the Patriots, they have, they have some things they need to address. The quarterback position, they got to add some more skill position players, particularly on offense. And the other thing, too, and now we got to see where Belichick ends up. You got the Chargers. That's a possible destination, which I think, maybe him or Mike Vrabel ends up there. We'll see. That I think is probably one of them. That and the Falcons. If the Falcons can figure out their quarterback situation, with the weapons that they have on offense and an improving defense, I mean, those are good spots, for a Bill Belichick. There's also the Panthers out there, which I don't know who's going to take that job. I don't think it's going to be either of them two, but you never know. The Raiders, we'll see if they stick with Antonio Pierce. It's going to be interesting. I mean, this is probably one of the craziest coaching carousels you're ever going to see, because you got Belichick, you got now Vrabel, of course. Jim Harbaugh could be a part of that conversation now, if he ends up leaving Michigan. And obviously Pete Carroll stepping down from as head coach of the Seahawks, but it seems he's going to stay within the organization. A lot of changes. And who knows how the playoffs go. Maybe somebody gets fired, with one of these playoff teams. Could Mike McCarthy, if the Cowboys get knocked out early, is he done in Dallas? I know some people are done with Nick Sirianni in Philly already, with the collapse that they've been having. So, yeah, it's just got to keep an eye on it. But, I'm curious to see where Belichick ends up, and I'm curious to see how this next era in New England's going to go. It's going to be very different, and it really is. It's an end of an era, and obviously people have their strong dislikes with the Patriots, and I understand. just because of, what they were able to do over 20 years. Belichick and Brady. It was, as much as people didn't like it, it was a big part of my life growing up, and really the first domino to fall when I started to realize things were changing in the football landscape, I would say, is when Peyton Manning retired. I think that was kind of like the beginning of the end of like that era of football this era of football that I've grown up watching. Because then you had Breeze retiring and Eli retiring, Big Ben, all these guys you grew up watching, all retiring, and Tom Coughlin with the Giants, him stepping down. Well, I mean, that's just me saying that as a Giant fan. And then it's just a lot of dominoes started to fall, and now we're seeing it's a different game now, and I think the NFL is in good hands with the quarterbacks that we have now, and the players. I mean, the athletes are better than they were back then, So I don't think the NFL is in good hands, but it makes you realize that a part of your childhood's ending, whether you liked it or not, and I could talk about, you go back to talk about baseball for a second. Yankees and the Red Sox had this great rivalry, and, those players are gone too. Players you grew up watching. I mean, listen, David Ortiz couldn't stand him when we played against him, but you know what? That's what made it fun. It's good to have a villain, and the Patriots were that. Now we got to look at another team that could be the villain. I mean, I know a lot of people have, now with the Chiefs and, the Super Bowls that they've won, and, some of the theatrics surrounding them have kind of made them not a very liked team for different reasons other than football. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be different next year without Belichick in New England. Now, we'll see where he ends up because he's not done yet. He's going to want to go somewhere and prove that, hey, listen, I could still win without Brady. Because, I mean, look, last couple of years in New England wasn't good. I mean, this year, they completely fell apart. The year before that, I thought that was going to be the year, but they ended up finishing only 8-9. They finished 8-9, and they, just missed the playoffs. So I kind of thought it was going to be I thought it was going to be the same thing, just because I really could not see a Bill Belichick team finishing with this kind of a record. But ended up happening. So, new era in New England, changing of the guard, but listen, Belichick's going to go somewhere else. And, there's a few attractive destinations. So, we'll see. We will keep an eye on it. But that's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what you guys think about the Patriots naming Jerod Mayo as their next head coach. When we come back from our first break of the show, it's playoff time. We are going to preview the NFC games first for this weekend, and then we'll go into the AFC after that. I'm not going to say who I'm picking for the games. I'll just go into, why, one team can win, why this team could win, etc. I don't want to give away who I'm picking until the last part of the show, just because then I'm going to show you my bracket. I use superimposed, which is what I use to edit the thumbnails for the videos, which doesn't take a lot of time. So yeah, the bracket might not look like pretty, but it's I thought it would be cool to just show my bracket on the show. I don't know. That was just an idea I had. But yeah, so when we come back from our first break, we'll preview the NFC playoff games. I might hold off on Bucks Eagles just because that's on Monday, so we could just do that then. But we could still talk about it when we come back from our first break. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to now preview the NFC playoff games for this weekend. I'll give you my thoughts on them. So let's get right into them. So, the third playoff game for the NFC, that's going to be on Monday. That's going to be the rematch of the game between the Bucs and the Eagles, because they played back in, week 3, right? Week 3? Yeah, week 3. Let's get into the games for Sunday. So you got the Packers and the Cowboys at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. Cowboys are a 7-point favorite. The league rankings for the two teams. The Cowboys are third in passing yards per game at 274.1. The Packers are 14th at 247.6. Rushing yards, both teams are actually about the same. The Cowboys are ranked 14th. Packers are ranked 15th. But the Packers and Cowboys are very different when it comes to points per game. Cowboys are first. Packers are 12th. Although the Packers have been playing better as of late. The Cowboys are averaging pretty much 30 points a game. Packers are averaging 22.5. Then on the defensive side of the ball, there's a difference there. The Cowboys are 5th against the pass. Packers are 11th. Rushing yards against the run. The Cowboys are 16th, and the Packers are 28th. And then points allowed, Cowboys are 5th, and the Packers defense is actually 10th. And you got two quarterbacks that have had good seasons. Of course, Dak Prescott for most of the year was an MVP candidate. He finished the regular season with 4,500 passing yards, 36 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Jordan Love, 4,100 yards passing, 32 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. And the Packers are coming in hot. Roller coaster of a season for them. They started off the season 2-1. Then they lost their next 4 games. Then they defeated the Rams, lost to the Steelers. Then they rode off 3 straight, then lost 2 straight, and then won their final 3 games and were able to make the playoffs. The Cowboys, they no really rough stretches for them. I mean, they had some bad games. The Cardinals game at the beginning of the year was bad. Of course, the 49ers blowout loss in Week 5, blown out by the Bills in Week 15. But the losses against Miami and Philadelphia, those were close games. They played well in the Eagles game. They played well enough to win, but they just couldn't cash in on some missed opportunities. And the Dolphins game, Jason Sanders kicked a bunch of field goals and they lost. They didn't put up enough points. But they've been very good at home. They're undefeated at home. It's going to be a tough game for the Packers. How the Packers can win this game, though, and I think I talked about this, is you got to keep Dallas off the field. And you have a running back in Aaron Jones who has had past success against the Cowboys. And not going to say that he's going to have 4 touchdowns like he did back in 2019. I think it was 4. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but Aaron Jones last 3 games has rushed for over 100 yards. Packers are going to have to run the football in this game, and they're going to have to keep Dallas's offense off the field and control the clock. That's what they're going to have to do, because if they got to start fast. That they got to score first. Like if they get the ball, you got to score on your first drive. You got to put pressure on the Cowboys to answer. Because you know what? I'll be honest. There's a lot of pressure on the Cowboys not just in this game, but in the playoffs. Because this NFC is not loaded. There's no Drew Brees anymore. There's no Aaron Rodgers. There's no Tom Brady with the Bucs. You got, other than the 49ers, you are the second best team in this conference. There is no reason why you shouldn't be playing in the NFC Championship game. So, for the Packers, this is a tough game for them. Cowboys, they should win this game. Like I said, 7-point favorite. They're at home where they've played very well. They've blown a lot of teams out at home. The Packers, I think, are kind of playing with that house money where it's like not a lot of people expect them to be there, so they should just let it rip. And Jordan Love has been better, cutting down on the turnovers. And listen, I think the Packers are going to put up some points in this game. But I think if Dallas is up by, two scores, the game's pretty much over. If Dallas goes up 14-0, this game's over. That's why it's really important that the Packers, if Dallas gets the ball first, you get a stop. On your first drive, you go right down the field, and you got to score. You got to score points. I'm a little worried with the kicking situation because Carlson, has not been good. You're not going to have Mason Crosby to save you and kick 50-plus yard field goals like the playoff game from 2016-2017 season. Actually, they on NFL Network last night they were replaying the Dez dropped it game, from the divisional round back in 2015, the 2014-2015 season. Which was one of my favorite football seasons of all time. That was a great that season was a lot of fun. I missed that Packers team, because growing up being a Jordy Nelson fan and obviously being an Aaron Rodgers fan, that Packers team was really good. So hopefully this Packers team can maybe become, something similar to that Packers team. But listen, the Packers have had their past success against Dallas in the playoffs, but it's different now. It's a new era. Jordan Love, is now the quarterback. I'm looking forward to this. I'm hoping it's a close game. And again, the Packers are coming in hot. Dallas is good at home. So hopefully it's a good game. That's what I'm hoping for. But for me, it's important that Green Bay, if you get the ball first, you got to go right down the field and score 7. You have to. Put pressure on Dallas, and like I said, if they can find success running the football, and again, teams can move the ball in this Dallas defense. This Dallas defense is not, the 85 Bears. You can move the ball in this defense. Now, they're opportunistic. They force turnovers. Micah Parsons is one of the best defensive players in the National Football League. So they're going to have to, find a way to contain him. So, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And we've seen earlier in the season Jordan Love struggle, on the road. But he's been different. He's been a different quarterback lately, so we'll see. Packers defense, though, I guess just cover CeeDee Lamb. You got to just take CeeDee Lamb out of the game somehow, and just have Dak throw to his other. Have Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup, Jacob Ferguson, have those guys try to beat you. You cannot leave CeeDee Lamb, in single coverage. You got to do something there. I don't know. But CeeDee Lamb, I think, is still going to have... CeeDee Lamb's going to have a good game. You just know he is. Probably going to catch a touchdown. Wouldn't be surprised. But yeah, we'll see what happens with this game. But again, credit to the Packers for getting to this point because nobody really expected them to make the playoffs. So then on Sunday night, Matthew Stafford makes his return to Detroit for the first time since the trade. Looking at the league rankings for both teams, Lions are 4th in passing yards per game. Rams are 11th. Lions are 5th in rushing yards per game. Rams are 11th. Points per game, both teams are top 10. Lions are 5th. Rams are 8th. Then on the defensive side of the ball, when it comes to the pass, Lions are 29th, giving up an average of 268.4 passing yards per game. And the Rams are 20th. Rushing yards, Lions are actually 2nd, giving up 88.8 rushing yards per game. The Rams are 12th. And then points allowed, Lions are 23rd, Rams are 19th. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. I think this game is going to be very high scoring. Now, another thing that's interesting, so I honestly, it's my fault for not, seeing this, but it seems like Sam Laporta is optimistic that he's going to play in this game. The injury was not as significant as we originally thought. I thought that he wasn't going to play, but it seems like he's going to be able to, and that's huge for the Lions because he's been a huge weapon for them. What a pick, in this this past NFL draft. They traded T.J. Hawkinson, and people kind of scratching their heads over that, and they drafted Sam Laporta, and he's been great. So you get him back for this game to go along with their weapons and their running attack. Jahmyr Gibbs has had a good second half of the season to go along with Jordan Montgomery. Sorry, did the baseball podcast before this. So David Montgomery, nice 1-2 punch there. And then on the other side, the Rams, they have been a different team since Kyren Williams has come back. And I've been saying that constantly. There's going to be a lot of points scored in this game. I think this game is going to be really close. It's going to be a nail biter, and it's going to be a great way to end off the triple header on Sunday. I cannot wait for this game. It's a revenge game for Jared Goff. I don't think it's a revenge game for Stafford. It's a revenge game for Jared Goff. And I'm really looking forward to it. This is going to be one of the best games of the weekend. So, we'll see what happens. These two teams don't have great defenses. They do have players on their defenses that can wreck games. Aaron Donald for the Rams, and for the Lions, you have Aiden Hutchinson. So we'll see what happens here. I'm really looking forward to this game. Lions are actually a 3-point favorite in this game. The over-under is 52. I don't know. I feel like you're going to see both teams scoring in the 30s, but I could be wrong. Then we'll just touch upon Monday's game briefly, but I wanted to wait till Monday. Right now, the Bucs are 3-point underdogs against the Eagles. The Eagles they're going to be getting their guys back, some of their guys back for this game, which is big. But you know what? They're going to have to put a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield, because if they don't, I feel like the Bucs are going to pick apart that secondary. I think Mike Evans is going to have, is going to feast on that secondary. Rashad White's been making plays for them in the running game and in the passing game as well. Baker Mayfield was playing well. Last two games, not so much, but he is a little banged up. The Eagles are banged up too. Jalen Hurts hurts his finger. A.J. Brown got hurt, but it seems like he's going to play. Devontae Smith, he was injured, but he looks like he's playing in this game. Listen, the Eagles are in a free fall right now. It hasn't been great for them, a great stretch for them. So I think this game's going to be closer than it was the last time these two teams met, but we'll see. So before I go into the second break of the show, I just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the following link, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show, makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/GSMCSportsNetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will then preview the AFC playoff games for this weekend. I'll give you my thoughts on those. And then after that, we'll get to who I think is winning each game for this weekend and how I think the rest of the playoffs are going to shape out. And I'll reveal my bracket. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the third part of the show, we are now going to preview the AFC playoff games for this weekend. I'll give you my thoughts on those, the wild card games. Super wild card weekend. So let's get into the first game. This one I think has the potential to be one of the best games of the weekend, and that is the Browns and the Texans. C.J. Stroud making his playoff debut. Actually, crazy thing is, so Joe Flacco starting for the Browns, right? The last time he started a playoff game was 3,290 days ago. Or, well, this is it's going to be 3,290 days since his last playoff game. And that was against the Patriots in the divisional round in the 2015 playoffs. Well, the 2014-2015 season. And I just talked about that season when I talked about the Dez dropped it game. So, I mean, that's unbelievable. That is a long gap. That is almost 10 years ago, the last time Flacco started in the playoffs. Joe Flacco is starting in a playoff game in 2024. Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited for this game. This game, I think, is going to be good. C.J. Stroud, obviously, is the front runner for Offensive Rookie of the Year. 23 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Joe Flacco, joining the Browns back when they played the Rams in Week 13. Been playing good football. Turnovers have concerned me. They concern me going into this game. When you look at the league rankings, the Texans are 5th in passing yards per game. The Browns are 19th. I mean, obviously, they've had a bunch of different Jeff Driscoll started last week. Rushing yards, the Browns are 12th. Texans are 22nd. And then points per game, Browns are 10th. Texans are 13th. Then, on the defensive side of the ball, Browns are 2nd, giving up an average of 185.2 passing yards per game. Texans are 25th. Against the run, the Texans are 6th, only giving up 96.6 rushing yards per game to the Browns, 105.5, which is 11th. Still pretty good. Points allowed, Texans defense is actually 11th, giving up 20.8. Browns are 13th, 21.3. Listen, the thing that concerns me is Flacco turning the ball over, because I could definitely see that happening in this game. I think, Stroud being at home, the Texans are good at home. They're going to put up points. So this is going to be a closer game than it was last time. I think this game can be a shootout, has a potential for that. But listen, it's Joe Flacco in the postseason, so I expect him to play well, even though obviously the last time he started a playoff game was years ago. But he's played well for the Browns. And Amari Cooper should be back for this game. David Njoku has been playing really well with Flacco. He's been a monster. And, with Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt running the football, they're gonna find success there as well. Obviously, for the Texans, they're missing Tank Dell. So if he was playing, you'd feel a lot better with their offense. But, Nico Collins being back and Stroud. Devin Singletary has had a couple of good games for them running the football. Dalton Schultz has been decent for them in his first year as their tight end. I think they should be getting. Are they getting Robert Woods back for this game? Let's see. Also Noah Brown too. I forgot to mention him. So yeah, dealing with the back, limited on Thursday. So we'll see. If he ends up playing for this game. I don't see Robert. Oh wait, here's Robert Woods. Dealing with the hip injury, limited practice on Thursday. So I mean, if you could get Noah Brown back and Robert Woods, I mean that helps. So I think this game is going to be close. Right now, the Texans are a 2-point underdog, but I think this game is going to be close. And also, I mean, for the Browns, I mean, they're dealing with the kicking situation too, because Dustin Hopkins, their kicker, he was ruled out for this game. So we'll see how it goes. But that's a game I'm really excited for. So that game's on NBC. The second game is on Peacock. That's going to be on at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And that is the Miami Dolphins and the Kansas City Chiefs. So now these two teams did meet, like the Browns and the Texans last time they played. Actually, I forgot to mention that. I'll mention that quickly. So Browns won 36-22. Flacco threw for 368, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. And Amari Cooper had 11 receptions for 265 yards and 2 touchdowns. But again, that was when Case Keenum playing for the Texans. So that game's going to be different. So last time the Dolphins and the Chiefs played each other, you go back to, that was Week 9. Chiefs won that game 21-14. scored all their points in the first half, got shut out in the second half. Dolphins scored their 14 points in the third quarter. Tua pass for under 200 yards. Tyreek Hill had a fumble in this game. Tua only threw one touchdown. And then for Mahomes, he passed for 185. He passed for 200 too. 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. But yeah, it wasn't as high scoring as I think people would have thought. Now with this game, this has the potential to be one of the coldest games ever, and because right now it's 10 degrees is the temperature for this game, with the Dolphins, listen, this is a warm weather team coming in to Kansas City to play in this weather, so it doesn't really favor them here. And they're what are the Chiefs? They're favored by 4.5 now. And so the line went up. I think it started at, what did it start at? It started at 3.5. Now it's up to 4.5. You look at the league rankings. The Dolphins are second in passing yards per game, sixth in rushing yards per game, second in points. Chiefs are seventh in passing yards, 19th in rushing yards, and then 15th in points per game. On the defensive side of the ball, the Chiefs are good against the pass, giving up an average of 197.2, which is fourth. Dolphins are actually good against the run, 7th against the run, 97.1 rushing yards per game they're giving up. Chiefs are 17th, and then points allowed, Chiefs are second, Dolphins defense is 22nd. So the Dolphins, they're going to have to rely a lot on their running game here with Mostert and Achane. They should be getting Mostert and Waddle back for this game, I believe, which is huge. Just kind of stinks that we might not really see a lot of passing in this game if the weather is the way it is right now. So I mean, listen, if the Dolphins, if they would have took care of business, they would have been hosting the Bills this week. But I think I can't really speak for the Bills, but maybe the Bills are better off losing. You'd be playing down in Miami, and the Steelers would be playing in Arrowhead this week, because in Buffalo, it looks like it's going to be cold there as well, but not as bad as Kansas City. It's going to be interesting to see how that game plays out here with the Chiefs and the Dolphins here. I don't know what to expect. I don't know. I mean, the Chiefs, listen, they've been inconsistent on offense. The Dolphins, their criticism is they haven't beaten a team over 500. Well, they did beat the Cowboys. Last year they played against the Bills with Skylar Thompson as their quarterback. This year they're going to have Tua. They're going to have most of their weapons on offense. On defense, you're going to be missing some guys. I know. I think Xavier Howard was ruled out. Javon Holland is questionable for the game. A few guys are questionable for the game. But yeah, they lost Bradley Chubb. They lost Jerome Baker. Deshaun Elliott, he didn't practice. He's dealing with a calf injury. Xavier Howard already ruled out. Van Ginkel was put on injured reserve. Jalen Phillips, he tore his Achilles. That was in the Jets game. On defense, they're banged up, which is going to be a problem. And also on top of that, you're going to be playing in these weather conditions. So we'll see what happens. That's my thoughts on that game. Then you got the Bills and the Steelers, which I've talked about, a decent amount this week. When I talked about T.J. Watt being ruled out. When you look at the league rankings, the Steelers are 27th in passing yards per game, 13th in rushing yards per game. Have been running the football better, though. And 27th in points, only averaging 17.9 points per game. Bills are 10th in passing yards per game, 7th in rushing yards per game, and 6th in points. And on the defensive side of the ball, Bills' defense is 6th against in passing yards per game. The Steelers are 18th against the run. Their defense is 15th. Steelers is 19th, and then points allowed, Bills are 4th. Steelers are 6th. So both defenses are top 10. Minka Fitzpatrick is going to return for this game, so that's big for the Steelers. Obviously, quarterback change there. Mason Rudolph taking over, and the Steelers won 3 straight, ended up making the playoffs. Right now, they're 9.5-point underdogs. Right now, it says 26 degrees with snow. So, yeah, that is it's going to be interesting because last year when they played in the snow, the Bengals dominated them. So, this is a different team, obviously, they're going against, and it's Mason Rudolph. But you know what? You got to give Mason Rudolph credit. The Steelers are running the football better. George Pickens, other than the Ravens game, but that was another messy weather game, put together 2 100-plus yard receiving yard games. So, listen, the Bills, what worries me with them is Josh Allen's turning the ball over, which I think is going to happen at least once in this game. Had some turnovers last year in the playoff game against, Skylar Thompson, who was a third-string quarterback for the Dolphins. So, for the Steelers, kind of the same thing with the Packers. Got to find success in the running game. Control the clock, get the ball, try to score first. Put the pressure on the Bills. It's going to be, tough without your best player, TJ Watt. But listen, the Bills, I don't look at them as, a team that's going to just come out and just dominate this game right away. I think there's going to be some hiccups in this game for them that they're going to have. For the Steelers, like I said, they've been running the football better. That's what you're going to have to do. You might have to, open up the offense a little bit because, the last few weeks. Now, against Seattle, it was different, but, you're playing against a backup quarterback in Jake Browning, which you dominated that game from start to finish. Seattle was a tough place to play, but Seattle's defense, they've had their issues in recent weeks, and the Steelers were able to run the football against them, and then you were playing against the Ravens backups. But the Bills' defense, they have a lot of injuries too. So, if you could find success in the running game and, not get forced into a shootout, the Steelers could keep this game close. So, we'll just have to, just got to wait and see. And, if the weather's really bad, then, yeah, you're going to have to rely on the ground game. But the Steelers' defense, we'll see if guys can step up with the absence of TJ Watt. All right, so now we are approaching the end of this segment. So when we come back from our final break of the show, we're going to go through each game, how I see the playoffs shaping out, who gets to the Super Bowl, and who's going to win the Super Bowl. Now, again, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. And we know how my predictions, I've talked about them, they aren't the best at times. But, I thought this would be fun to just, give my predictions on what I think is going to happen. And, so that's what we're going to do when we come back from our final break of the show. So, with that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, I'm now going to give you my predictions for the NFL playoffs right now. And I will reveal my bracket. We're going to go game by game, and then obviously we got the wild card games this week, divisional round next week, then the championship games. Got that week off in between. Of course, the Pro Bowl games will be in between then, and the Super Bowl will be on February 11th. So, this is how we got the... I don't know if I should reveal the bracket at the end, or... Well, let's just get through these games first. So, Browns, Texans. Texans are 2-point underdogs. This game is a coin flip for me. I like what the Texans have done this year. I mean, what the Browns have done too, with the quarterback situation has been unbelievable. Texans had a schedule winning the division. C.J. Stroud, like I said, offensive rookie of the year, the favorite. But I'm going to go with the Browns in this game. I think it's going to be very close. I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to come down to a game-winning field goal. But I like what the Browns have been able to do. The thing that concerns me is the Flacco turnovers, and also the fact that they didn't play each other not too long ago, and this was without C.J. Stroud. So, yeah, I'm a little worried with this, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans win. But I'm going to take the Browns here. I think C.J. Stroud is going to put up points against this Browns defense because we've seen, like we saw the Colts earlier in the season. They put up, what was it, 39 points on them? I mean, it was unbelievable. I think Stroud's going to put up points here. We're going to see some big plays from him. We're going to see some big plays from Flacco like we did the first time. I think this game could be a shootout, but I like the Browns here. I think they win and they move on. So now we go to the late game on Saturday, the Chiefs and the Dolphins. Obviously, the weather conditions aren't the best, but I think that plays better for Kansas City here. Listen, the Chiefs' offense hasn't been great. There's been times where they've clicked. Running the football with Isaiah Pacheco, they have found success there. Rashee Rice has been productive as of late for the Chiefs. At least they found a receiver with him. Travis Kelce's looked a little off this year, but he's a little banged. He's been dealing with injuries all year. The Chiefs aren't the same Chiefs team that they've been. However, their defense, the best defense that they've had in the Patrick Mahomes era, they're at home for this game. The only teams to beat them at home in the playoffs in the Mahomes era is Tom Brady and Joe Burrow, which you can't really complain about that. So I think the Chiefs win here. I think this is a bad spot for the Dolphins, especially with the weather conditions. Now, can this game be close? Absolutely. But I think with the Dolphins dealing with a lot of injuries on defense, and I don't really trust Tua in this spot, unfortunately, against the Chiefs' defense, I think the Chiefs win this game, and they move on to the next round. So then we go to Sunday's games. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Buffalo Bills. Now, I will be rooting for the Pittsburgh Steelers for my dad, but unfortunately, I do not see them winning this game. I think this game has the potential to be close if Josh Allen turns the ball over, which I think will happen in this game. But I think especially without T.J. Watt, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough here in this spot for the Steelers. So I think the Bills win this game. It's possible it could be close. I'm going to take the Bills here. So the Bills move on. Then we got the Packers and the Cowboys. Now, I will be rooting for the Packers in this game. And Jordan Love's been playing good football. Credit to the Packers for getting into this spot. Unfortunately, I think Dallas wins this game. I think this game could get ugly. I think this game could be close, but I feel like Dallas is going to pull away and win this game comfortably. They have played well at home all year, and I think that continues in this spot. The Packers' defense, hasn't been good. Although I will say they did a nice job the last 2 weeks against their division rivals, but I think against the Cowboys it's going to be tough. We'll see how they what their plan is for CeeDee Lamb. Jair Alexander actually got hurt in practice this week, so we got to keep an eye on his status for the game. But I think for me, you just got to focus on taking CeeDee Lamb out of the game somehow and just let some of these other receivers beat you, which they definitely can. Brandon Cooks has been good at times this year. You kind of forget about Michael Gallup, honestly. And the Cowboys haven't run the football the best this year. But I think the Cowboys end the Packers season here, and they move on to the divisional round. All right, so now we get to probably the best game of the weekend, and that's the Rams and the Lions. Both quarterbacks going against their former teams. The Lions are the 3 seed, 3-point favorite. Rams are the 6 seed coming in. I'm going to take the Rams here. I think this game is going to be very high scoring. But I like the Rams in this game, although it's going to be very close. Both teams are going to put up a lot of points. But I'm going to take you also got to look at the coaching, too. I'm going to take Sean McVay and his playoff experience over Dan Campbell, as much as I like Dan Campbell a lot. And I do like the Lions, what they've been able to do and what they've been able to build. But I'm going to take the Rams here in an upset, and they move on to the next round. And then for the Bucs and the Eagles, as much as I want the Bucs to win, I think the Eagles, they at least for this week get back on track and they beat the Bucs at home. The way the Bucs offense has been playing the last couple of weeks, that worries me. Listen, the Eagles, yeah, they've been a mess too. But I think the Eagles will still win this game, unfortunately. But I'm going to root for the Bucs. I'm going to root for Baker to get another playoff win, but I don't think that's going to happen. So, what ends up happening now is, if we can go to my bracket here. So we're just going to have this go away for a second. So this is the bracket right here. So now we would have then the Ravens will be taking on the Browns in the next round. The Rams will be taking on the Niners. And then at the top here, you'd have the Cowboys against the Eagles, and you'd have the Bills against the Chiefs, this time in Buffalo. So you kind of already see what I laid out there. But so Ravens and the Browns. So obviously you're going to see if everything goes the way my bracket has it, you're going to have Joe Flacco taking on his old team. And that's going to be a lot of fun if that ends up happening. But I just feel like, for me, the Ravens, I think, would win that game and get themselves to an AFC Championship game. Because you got to remember also, the Ravens, they had that collapse against the Browns earlier in the season in Baltimore, and they lost that game. I think they're going to get it right this time, and they're going to pull off the win and get to the AFC Championship. And then on the top, the Chiefs and the Bills. This time it's going to be in Buffalo, and if it ends up happening. And I went back and forth with this, but I feel like that game definitely would be close, like it was earlier in the season. But I just, for me, I think the Chiefs in the playoffs, in this spot, I feel like they'd win. It would be a very close win, but I feel like they would win, get back to the AFC Championship game and take on the Ravens in Baltimore. So now we would see back-to-back road games for Patrick Mahomes. Well, we're going to see, if the Bills move and the Chiefs move on, we're going to see Patrick Mahomes on the road for the first time in the postseason. So, so then you got the Bills, you got the Chiefs and the Ravens in the championship game. That's what I have. Then on the NFC side, so you'd have the Rams and the Niners, and then the Cowboys and the Eagles. I think the Rams and the Eagles go into these respective stadiums. They've had their problems there. I mean, the Rams did just win there in Santa Clara, but that was with the backups. So now you're gonna have both teams at full strength. I take the Niners. It would be a tough game, but I take the Niners in that spot, and then I think the Cowboys would just take out the Eagles, just because. Listen, the Eagles, winning against the Buccaneers, Doesn't mean you're all the way back. You'd have to really prove to me that you're back if if they beat the Cowboys, if they face them, if they even beat the Bucks, But yeah, I would say the Cowboys would then beat the Eagles, and then it would set up the championship games would be the Chiefs and the Ravens, and the Niners and the Cowboys. I got the 2-1 seeds moving on. I think this is the Ravens' year to get to the Super Bowl. I'm on that train. The Chiefs have been shaky all year on offense. I just feel like this. I feel like this year's different. I think this is the year we don't see the Chiefs get to the Super Bowl, and we see a different team. And that team is the Baltimore Ravens. And then as for the Cowboys and the Niners, although the Cowboys are getting another crack at the Niners here, I still think the Niners are the better team. The Cowboys struggle on the road, and I think ultimately the 49ers, they get to the Super Bowl, and we get a rematch of the Christmas game where the Ravens dominated the Niners. Now, this pick is kind of going with my heart here. The Ravens, they kind of had that blueprint on the Niners there in the Christmas game. But I'm going to say the Niners get their revenge. And I have the San Francisco 49ers winning the Super Bowl. That's my prediction. The San Francisco 49ers, they finally get over that hump and they win the Super Bowl. Now, is that going to happen? I don't know. I have no idea. Now, what terrifies me is having the Cowboys in the NFC Championship game, because I don't want them anywhere near that. But because the NFC is so weak, I feel like they're going to get there with no problem. At least to the NFC Championship game. Now, if the Niners get knocked off somehow, Cowboys, I think, will get to the Super Bowl. But that's the team that is going to stand in their way. Now, could they surprise people and knock off the Niners? Again, anything is possible. But for me, especially this year, I think this might be that year where you're going to see. Now, the Ravens, they could beat themselves. They could beat themselves. We've seen that in some games this year. That's definitely possible. The Browns are going to give them a tough time if they face them again. If they have to play the Chiefs or the Bills, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I think ultimately they're going to get to it, and Lamar Jackson's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. And if my predictions go the way I have them here, but yeah, so that's basically my predictions. Now, for what I want to happen, I want the Bucs to win. I want the Packers to win. The Steelers to win. I still want the Niners to win the Super Bowl. Because I feel like with that group of players, they kind of deserve that. Especially with what happened last year too. I really hope that they end up holding up the trophy when it's all said and done. But yeah, I mean, that's just my predictions. I mean, is it going to go exactly like that? No. I mean, listen, the first game tomorrow, the Texans will probably win, and then it's like, all right, we're off to a great start here, But listen, and I always say this, I just want to see good games, Ultimately, if we get that, that's a win in my book. Well, there are teams that I want to see lose, and I don't think any of them are going to lose. I think for the most part, especially in the first round, like most of the games are going to go how you expect. Then once you get to the divisional round, that's where it's like, okay, let's see what happens here now. But yeah, at the end of the day, just hoping for good games. That's all you can ask for. So with that is all the time that we have for today. I thank you guys for watching, sticking around for the 2 shows today. I appreciate it. We'll be back again on Monday, recapping all the games from this weekend. So until then, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off once again from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day. Enjoy the games this weekend, and I'll see you next time. Take care.